If you love movies and movie discussions, you've come to the right place. Who am I, you ask? I am The Wiz, and I'm here today to review the 2023 drama Past Lives, Greta Lee and Teo Yo and John Mayagaro, directed by Celine Song. So Past Lives was a movie that came out around June of last year that I think was the first film from an independent studio that got critical acclaim. I believe it did well in Sundance as well that same year. So the buzz of this movie was pretty strong before it came out in the theaters, but it got great critical reception, and the people who saw this movie actually thought it was very good as well. So I was looking forward to this, and this is a movie, since we're doing Oscar-nominated films for this year, this movie was nominated for Best Picture and Best Original Screenplay. Some felt that Greta Lee was robbed, some felt that Celine Song was robbed. Maybe I'll have my opinion on that as time goes, but it did get 2 key nominations in writing and in picture, so that's still pretty good for a movie that I don't think really did very well in the box office. Well, it had a $12 million budget, and it made about $23 million in theaters, so that's actually not bad. I think it made enough to make a profit for the studio, so that's good at least, I would say. So why don't we just get right into it? Let's get into the review of Past Lives, directed by Celine Song. Before we do that, let's get into the plot. So the plot is pretty simple. Nora, played by Greta Lee, and Hae Sung, played by Teo Yo, are 2 people who started a deep connecting relationship when they were 12 years old. By the time they had that relationship, Nora's parents decided they wanted to immigrate to Canada to create a better life for their kids. So Nora said goodbye to Hae Sung. Sometime later, they decide to reconnect online and start a long-distance relationship. And this movie pretty much goes into what happens when they try to reconnect after it's been so long since they've seen each other. And that's the basic gist of the movie. I don't really want to get more into that because that might spoil certain things. So why don't we just get into my 3 points of Past Lives? And my first point for the movie is it's an interesting long-distance relationship movie. The first thing I thought about when I was watching this movie is, why aren't there more movies like this? The thing of long-distance relationships, okay? I'm pretty sure there were long-distance relationships before the internet, but they became very prevalent during the internet days. I, for one, had a long-distance relationship with one of my co-hosts, Kim. We had a long-distance relationship, more of a friendship than anything else, that really stood the test of time for over 20 years. And now we've never met. We still talk a lot throughout the days, but we've had a very nice long-distance relationship. And there's certain dynamics that people don't understand about these relationships that I think would make a fascinating movie. So when I saw they were going this route in this movie, I was like, oh, this could be really interesting. And this is just the first half of the movie. And this really spoke true to certain aspects of what a long-term relationship is like. The fact that you can be so close and honest with somebody, and yet they're not there. You want to develop this relationship, make it grow, but they're not physically there. So when you are not in contact with them, you feel empty. But when they are there, there's a fullness there because you are opening up to somebody that you truly care about. And this film does a really good job showing this, where both of them find fulfillment in each other. But when it steps outside of it, becomes the big problem, because then there isn't a connection with them physically. And I think the film does a great job with this specific thing in mind. Now, the issue that I'm going to have with this movie is what happens next. So let's get to the second point, which is this is a will they, won't they, that isn't. So what I mean by this, so I tell you the first half, that is the long-distance relationship part. It would stand to reason that the second half would probably be the will they be together type of part that happens in this movie. Well, the problem with the movie, and a big one I had, is they tried to make drama into that will Nora and Hae Sung be together, but if you're really paying the slightest bit of attention, there is no tension to that. Like, there really isn't anything there. I will not spoil exactly what happened, but by the fact that I am complaining about this, you probably can already guess what it is. The fact that there's a lack of tension to this means that the film needs something else for the second half to work. But the problem that I had is that there really isn't much that you know about these characters, other than that one's very successful and happy, and the other one not so much. Maybe, we don't know. And because of that, there isn't really anything else to grab onto when it comes to tension. Do I care about these people? Do I not want them to get hurt? Do I want them to be happy? I don't care because I don't know anything about them. And that becomes a big problem as the film goes, which dissipates the tension of this movie, and on top of that, just takes away any kind of dramatic pull that you can have to attach yourself. And my third point, for such a long setup, it doesn't exactly hit well. What I mean by this is this. The first half of the movie is a long-distance relationship, and I think it's one of the strongest elements of this film. I think it works so well. They show really well what a long-distance relationship is like, especially back then, especially through Skype, which was absolute trash. I'm so happy that they showed how Skype really was back then, because Skype was horrible back then. The first half is great. The second half is like a lead balloon. It just doesn't really have an emotional heft to it. And the second half is where they finally meet in person for the first time in about 25 years. And it's supposed to be a very emotional scene, and it's not there. Because the thing that you realize is that these characters haven't shown any type of personality throughout the entire film. The only thing you know about either of them is what they have done. You know that Nora has become a writer. She's become a playwright. She wants to be successful there. She has a husband. And Hae Sung, the only thing you learn about is that he went to the army and he has a girlfriend that he's not sure if he wants to have a long-term relationship with. That's all you know. You know nothing personally, because all you know is what they have and what they desire, and that's not enough for this movie. And because of that, the second half just doesn't hit. It just does not work. And by the end, when certain things happen in the film, it comes into question a bunch of other things. And this goes for all the characters, including Nora's husband, who I have some issues with myself. But really, the problem is that these characters are not that deep. And for a 2-hour film that is just about these 2 or even 3 characters, it's kind of hard to be emotionally invested when you know really not much about them. Without that connection, that deeper connection that you would want with those characters, I think the movie just kind of flounders at the end. Now, some will find some emotional resonance in it. Some will find that they are attached to these characters in a certain extent. But I think it's only because if you know what that is like, if you know what that pain is like to be in this type of relationship and have this thought of, well, could it have worked? Might it have worked? If I would have just pushed a little harder here, would this have happened? That is really the only thing you can grab out of that. And what's funny is, not with Kim, but with somebody else, I had that kind of relationship with somebody. But even then, I was like watching this going, yeah, but okay, but there's nothing to attach me to these characters. Now, I'm not saying the characters are awful. They're just not in depth at all. There's not really much of a depth to them. I found it incredibly hard, not to not give a shit, but really to have that attachment to characters that I'd really want to see a happy ending. By the end of the film, I wasn't cold, but I was indifferent. And that's really not something you want for a film that's relying on you to be emotionally invested in these characters. Okay, so who do I recommend this for? I recommend this for people if you like films about different relationships. What I mean by this is the long-distance relationship thing. I've personally, when I tell people that I have someone who I think is a very good friend of mine that I have never seen in person, they think that's incredibly weird. This movie might be a window to show people why that is not so weird after all. It does show the emotional heft of you want to be in a romantic relationship with somebody long distance and what that causes, then that could be something that you can get a window into. If you want a window into a different type of relationship, this will do it. And who do I not recommend this for? I do not recommend this if you want a performative film. These are very subtle, quiet performances. They're supposed to be more introspective. You're supposed to want to connect with them in a deeper way in this film. So if you're looking for a lot of theatrics, this is not the movie. If you want that, then this is not the film for you. Overall, I gotta say, Past Lives made me feel very mixed at the end. I can't say it's a bad film, but I'm not going to say it's something that I enjoyed either. It's something that I was very conflicted with after I watched the film, so I didn't write my review for another few hours just to really process my thought. And overall, I'm not going to recommend Past Lives. And I know that's probably going to be a weird reaction for some people who absolutely adore this movie. Like, the critics love this movie. They think it's a very deeply romantic and moving movie, which I do not get. Maybe moving, but not romantic. I just felt that the film did not show me enough about these characters when you're spending 2 hours with these characters. The other issue that I have with this film that I did not mention in the 3 points, I think I should put this around the third point, is that I think making Nora the main character was the wrong move in this film. I think it would have been better off being Hae Sung being the main character. And why do I say this? It's not because I'm a man and I want to see someone in a man's perspective beat my chest and shit like that. No, that's not what I mean. The thing is, the only conflict that there is in this movie is Hae Sung. Hae Sung is the only one that has something that he needs to resolve, he needs to grow from. Nora doesn't. Nora is a pretty confident woman by the time that you get into that second half of the film. She seems to know what she wants and what she wants out of life. And that's why also the tension was pretty much not there. Because you already knew at a certain point that what Nora wanted. And because of that, the dramatic tension you would get from a will they, won't they type of relationship or type of movie was just not there. I'm not going to say not watch the film, but overall, I'm going to say I'm not going to recommend Past Lives. It's a disappointment for me. I actually really wanted to watch this and really wanted to see it, but in the end, I just felt it was kind of a miss for me. So I do not recommend Past Lives. Now, if you want my full review on this movie, you can go to my website at IamTheWiz.com. You'll have my full written review right on the site, along with a link to the video that has this review that you've just listened to. Okay, so Thursday, me and Zero are going through the 007 Chronicles and reviewing Thunderball. Saturday, me and Kim are reviewing Alexander Payne's The Holdovers. And then on Tuesday, it's the beginning of February, which means it's the week before Valentine's Day. So I thought we would get our movies about love over with, and we'll do that next week. And I'm going to start Tuesday with a film that I've wanted to see for a while, and from a director that I really respect and really like. And that is, of course, Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence. This is a film that, I've been interested in watching amongst other films that Martin Scorsese has done. His non-crime movies are actually really good, but not compared to his crime movies, of course. His crime movies are spectacular, but when he does different types of films, he does a very good job in those too. So tune in Thursday where me and Zero review Thunderball. Saturday, me and Kim review The Holdovers. And on Tuesday, I review Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence. I am The Wiz, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.